Welcome back. I'm Luis Cortez, the owner of Savor and Gather Personal Chef Services in Nashville, Tennessee. Today, we're going to do another recipe today of a T-bone steak with a Mamposteao rice. Mamposteao rice is a rice basically with your leftovers. Rice and beans, you take it, you try to elevate a little bit with a little more flavor to it, and you make it better. And then you're using the leftovers, and so it doesn't get thrown away. So let's get started. Uh, let's heat up my cast iron skillet. So I have my T-bone steak at room temperature. We're gonna season it up. It's always good to have room temperature the steak. Obviously, you don't want to leave it out for too long, but you want that not to be cold from the fridge. So what I'm using some salt and pepper. And then this steak, what we're gonna do, we're gonna have a compound butter. My compound butter is made of some fresh rosemary from my garden, some fresh rosemary, some roasted garlic, and butter. So those are the three ingredients. It's going to be rosemary and roasted garlic compound butter. So we let this heat up, and then we'll throw in our steak. So my compound butter is going to be these three ingredients here. So while I get my steak, while my steak is going to be cooking, we're going to put some rosemary inside the pan so it can have those aromatic flavors on the steak a little bit. And then we're going to put a little bit of garlic, 2 cloves of garlic, 2 heads of garlic inside with the pan. Let me get my steak on there because my pan seems to be pretty hot. Let me season the other side first. Okay, let's go. Put my 2 cloves of garlic and my sprig of rosemary to basically give flavor to the pan, to the oil, so it can keep some flavor in the steak. So this steak, it's a fairly thin piece of steak. So I didn't get a really thick one because I wanted to cook fairly quickly. We're gonna try to go for medium rare. So it's gonna cook fairly quickly. I would say about 6 to 8 minutes at the most. And the key, in my perspective, the key to having a great steak is to not turn it so many times or manipulate it too much or any meat. You turn it the necessary amount of time. You can't, if you keep manipulating it, it tends to dry out because you keep moving it too many times. You're pushing the juices out of it. So I think this is just about done. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put it to the side and we're gonna get started on our rice. So I have my other pan here, and we're gonna put a little bit of bacon in this because, like I said, we want to elevate the dish, make it better than just the regular rice and beans. So we want to get some flavor to it. So right now we're gonna get our bacon a little crispy and render that fat so it can let loose that flavor. While that's rendering, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut up and I'm gonna make my compound butter. So my compound butter is some butter and I guess whatever you want to put in it. Well, so this one is going to be roasted garlic and rosemary. Get my roasted garlic. So the reason why I do roasted garlic, because garlic, as you may know, garlic, it tends to be a little harsh when it's raw. So I do roasted garlic. It has a sweeter flavor to it. It's not as strong, and and it doesn't have that punch that I guess the raw garlic has. It's much better. It's much more subtle. I enjoy it, and a lot of people, from what I know and I see, a lot of people enjoy it more than just raw garlic. Even when you cook the raw garlic, it tends to be a bit strong, and a lot of people can't tolerate it, a raw garlic. But the people that can't tolerate raw garlic, usually roasted garlic is okay for them. And I'll just throw a little bit of parsley in there, just give it a little more color. And then what we do is we season it a little bit with some salt and pepper. It's good to season everything. And so my bacon seems to be rendered in the fat. So I got some sweet peppers and onions. I'm gonna put that in there. And then this is more of a Puerto Rican dish. So in Puerto Rico, we use the sofrito. We're gonna put some sofrito in there to elevate it. And we're gonna put a little bit of regular garlic in there, not much. So we're going back to my compound butter. And the only thing I do with this butter is we let the butter get to room temperature. We don't want the butter just liquid. We don't want it completely melted. We want it somewhat solid but softened. Because if you get it completely liquid, you separate the fat from the water, and that's okay. It's not a bad thing, but you're not gonna make compound butter. You make clarified butter, and you have it mixed in. But then what you do here is you'll take this, you put it on wax paper, and you form it into a cylinder, whatever form you want to do. And I have one already done. So I have one that I molded with my wax paper, and I have it ready to go. So let's get back to my rice, my Mamposteao rice. We're letting all this soften up and all the flavors come together. It's a very easy dish because you're using leftovers. So you can basically do this with a lot of other things too. You know, you have some leftover pasta and some other ingredients in your home that you've had for different dishes. You can mix and match and start making pasta dishes with different ingredients, with some ham and bacon, and you just elevate it. You make a sauce. So we're gonna add our beans here, and bring that up. My rice, I did heat it up just a little bit. I so it doesn't get too stiff and hard, and it'll take a long time for the other ingredients to penetrate the rice and give it the flavor it needs. So I softened it up a little bit in the microwave to get it softer a little bit. So once we have everything integrated and nice and warm, make sure that it's fully warm. We're gonna add our rice. And basically, it's more or less just like trying to make a Chinese rice. You're basically utilizing old rice already cooked off. It's not old, but rice already cooked off and cooled down, and you mix it in all the ingredients in the end. You gotta make sure you don't have any clumps. Get all the clumps out because it is reheated rice, so you might have some clumps in there. And then what I do is I add a little bit, some parsley to give it some color, or cilantro. Okay, I think this is done. So my steak has been resting for a few minutes, about 10 minutes. That's good. We're gonna plate this up. Okay, here we go. We have our Mamposteao rice with our T-bone steak with roasted garlic and rosemary compound butter. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm Luis, Chef Luis, owner of Savor and Gather Personal Chef Services. Until next time, thank you very much.